In Parshat Matos, Moshe Rabbeinu was commanded to take revenge against the nation of Midian, who were responsible for enticing Klal Yisrael to commit acts of avodah zarah and gilur arayos. To read the pasuk, "Vaydaber Hashem al Moshe lemor, nikom nikmat bnei Yisrael me'etz hamidyanim, achar te'asef el amecha." Before fulfilling his command, Moshe Rabbeinu commands the nation to choose an army. Hichaltzu me'etchem anashim. Choose from among you men. Choose righteous people. He then tells them the amount of soldiers that they're required to take. That from each shevet they have to choose 1,000 men. The exact lashon of the pasuk, of the psukim, seems to be repetitive. The pasuk goes on to say, "Elef lamateh, l'chol matot Yisrael tishluchu latzava, vayimasru me'alfei Yisrael elef lamateh, shneim asar elef chalutzei tzava." This phrase of elef lamateh seems to be repeated 3 times. But at the end, it seems to be saying that only 12,000 were sent altogether, meaning 1,000 from each shevet. How do we understand this? The Medrash learns out from the repetition of El Lamateh that even though it seems to be saying that there were only 12,000 sent, there were 3 groups of 12,000 sent. Each shevet did not have to choose one group of 1,000, but each shevet had to send out 3 groups of 1,000. 1,000 of the men were the chalutzei tzava, the actual soldiers. 1,000 from each shevet were those who were sent to be the shomrim, who had to guard the ammunition, and an additional 1,000 was responsible for davening at the battlefield. And the question asked, in the beautiful sefer called Or Yecheskel on Emunah, Ruchatzkel Levenstein, the question he asks is, well, we understand, it's obvious to us that Klal Yisrael would be davening at the same time that the soldiers are at the battlefield. Moshe Rabbeinu leading the entire nation, whoever remains in the camp, of course they would be steeped in tefillah. But then why do the 12,000 soldiers have to actually go out to the battlefield in order to daven? And he answers the question with the following. He says the key to answering this is in the words of a tefillah that we say every day in Shema, words that come from Parshat Shlach. V'lo taturu acharei levavchem v'acharei nechem asher atem zonim achareihem. That we're commanded to guard our eyes and our hearts, that our hearts and our eyes should not be allowed to be enticed by what we see and what our hearts desire. What does that have to do with the 12,000 soldiers who were sent to daven at the battlefield? There's a very strong enticement for a person who experiences victory, whether it's victory at a battlefield or any other personal victory in his life. It's very common to start to attribute your victory to kochi ve'otzim yadi, to fall into the trap of gaiva, to feel that it was my own personal accomplishment, and to forget that it was really the Yad Hashem. In order to help Klal Yisrael, they were commanded that there have to be 12,000 soldiers standing at the battlefield. Meaning that Klal Yisrael would not just see with their eyes 12,000 soldiers who were victorious, but that their eyes would also see 12,000 soldiers steeped in tefillah. And therefore they would not be enticed to give into that taiva of being trapped by kochi ve'otzim yadi. And as hard as it is to understand, we might think that, wait a minute, who are these soldiers? Go back to the command was hechaltzu me'etchem anashim. Anashim means spiritual giants. These were the elite of Klal Yisrael on a high level, and yet the Torah is telling us that human nature is that we look at what our eyes see, and we tend to believe that it's kochi ve'otzim yadi. This message is taught to us in a number of places in the Chumash. In addition to this battle of Midian, there were other places where Klal Yisrael were taught the lesson of lo b'chaya v'lo b'koach ki im beruchi amar Hashem tzvakot. For example, in the battle with Amalek, Moshe Rabbeinu was standing at the battlefield, and what does he have to do? His hands have to be lifted up. His hands are held up, and they remain held up throughout the battle. Why? So that Klal Yisrael would learn the lesson to lift their hands to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and remember, who is the victor in the battle? Not their hands, not the strength of their hands, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu. One more example that I'd like to cite, is the example of the battle that Avram Avinu fought against the mighty nations, the 4 mighty nations, when he went to go rescue Lot. When the king of Sodom comes to greet him and offers him the spoils of the war. So we have the famous refusal of imichut vi'ad srochnal. And what does Avram Avinu do? He says, Harimoti yadi el Hashem kel elyon konesh shamayim va'aretz. Again, he's lifting his hands. Why is he lifting his hands? Because he says, I can't take michut vi'ad srochnal, because what will happen? Velo tomar ani heshartet Avram. that my hands should never say that it's me who caused Avram to become wealthy, because to the victors go the spoils. And who is the real victor in this battle? It's really HaKadosh Baruch Hu.